What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from Marvel, DC, and even IDW as well. But today, we're going to sit down and actually cover the wedding of Vision and the Scarlet Witch. Because, guys, next month we are getting WandaVision, a TV show on Disney+. And so I felt like it'd be a good idea to do some stories that are all about Vision and the Scarlet Witch that leads up to that show right there. Now, last week we covered the origin of Vision, but today, guys, we are going to cover the book that gives us the wedding of the Scarlet Witch and Vision, and honestly, it's only in like 2 pages. But anyways, guys, this is the wedding of the Vision and the Scarlet Witch in Giant Size Avengers number 4. I do hope you enjoy today's video. If you do, please hit that like button down below. But here we go. So this book picks up where our last Avengers video left off at, where basically Vision learned his origin, where Ultron used the body of the original Human Torch to make him. But after learning his origin, he was supposed to be teleported back to the Avengers. Except the Synchro Staff actually brought him somewhere else. And this is where we find out that he was teleported to Dormammu's dimension. To make things worse for Vision, we see that Dormammu also had captured the Scarlet Witch. Now you know who Dormammu is from the Doctor Strange movie, because he is a classic Doctor Strange villain, but being used for this story right here, mainly because the last time he appeared, the Scarlet Witch actually defeated him. Now remember, in last week's video, we were also learning the origin of Mantis, except her origin was focusing around the origin of the Kree and the Katati race. Also, a little bit of the Skrull race as well. The problem is that at the end of our last video, Moondragon appeared and explained her origin to the Avengers, which is similar to Mantis. But at the end of the video, we learned the character Libra in the astral form of Swordsman was about to tell us about the celestial Madonna that's supposed to come. Apparently, it was supposed to be Moondragon because she is so perfect, except she has not found her humanity yet. And this is where we learn how Mantis' origin is tied into the Kree and the Katati origin. When Mantis was young, her mother was killed by her own brother's gang, except Mantis' father took her to the same temple the Avengers are at right now, where she was trained to be a priestess, except she was able to communicate to the Katati that were left at the temple by the Kree from our last video. Except once both Moondragon and Mantis finished their training, their minds were wiped. This leads to them telling us that once their minds were wiped, Moondragon stayed on the planet Titan to continue to be a priestess, while Mantis was able to travel around the world, which gave her the chance to become more human than Moondragon, which made her the perfect choice to be the celestial Madonna. Now you have Iron Man, Thor, and Hawkeye walking away because Hawkeye found the bodies of Radioactive Man, Crimson Dynamo, and Titanium Man, where they tell the Avengers that they were attacked by Kang the Conqueror. Then the story jumps over to Vision once again, where he is trying to fight against Dormammu as a way to save the Scarlet Witch. Now this is Dormammu at this point in the Marvel Comics was not at full power, and so some of the moves that he does on Vision do not work on Vision, which gives Vision the chance to be able to defeat everything Dormammu throws at him. Except after Vision defeats every single move of Dormammu, you have Dormammu use his powers to control the mind of the Scarlet Witch to make her fight against the man she loves, Vision. But we shift quickly over to Mantis' origin again, where you have Libra continue that with her become the next celestial Madonna. This is where we get a 1-page to tell us about the time she fell in love with Swordsman, but after falling in love with him, he died just a few moments later. Now his death is important and why we see an astral form of him here right now. Except the story shifts over to the idea of the rest of the Avengers hunting down Kang the Conqueror since he is back once again. Now, instead of staying together and getting ready for him to attack, you have Hawkeye, Iron Man, and Thor split up to find him separately. Now, the first person to find Kang is Thor, and this is where the story gets a little bit more interesting, because with Thor fighting Kang, this fight should be somewhat interesting to see, except we see the fight get wrapped up very quickly by Thor, which should tell us that something is up if Kang was able to be defeated by Thor that easily. Of course, the page shows us in the last two panels that now Hawkeye is going to fight against Kang. And so there are two Kangs now out of nowhere. But then the story shifts over to Vision again, where we get to see the Scarlet Witch fight against Vision, where Vision is playing defense by not trying to hurt the Scarlet Witch because of how much he loves her, except the Scarlet Witch is playing offense because she's being controlled by Dormammu, where you had a Scarlet Witch actually defeat Vision, but before he was defeated, you had a Scarlet Witch actually break out of the control of Dormammu and realize what she has done to Vision. This is where we get 4 more panels on one page that explains why Mantis is to become the Celestial Madonna, because she fell in love with the Vision. Even though he was madly in love with the Scarlet Witch, it helped her learn more about life and love in a different way. But then the story shifts back over to the Scarlet Witch, trying to fight against Dormammu. Something else I forgot to mention is that Dormammu's sister Yumar is there as well to help Dormammu. But this fight really gets wrapped up when Angela Harkness, who we saw in our last video, who was training the Scarlet Witch, was able to come to Dormammu's realm and help the Scarlet Witch and Vision actually defeat both Dormammu and his sister Yumar, where Dormammu pledges to leave them alone from now on, and they are able to leave his realm and finally go back home to the rest of the Avengers. This is where the story gets a little awkward, because you first see Hawkeye fighting against Kang in the middle of the jungle, where he is able to defeat Kang like Thor did. But then you have Thor and Iron Man appear with 2 other bodies that look like Kang. Before we can learn more about that, you had the story shift over to Mantis, where the story tells us that the astral form of Swordsman is telling Mantis that she has to marry this random tree, because it is a spot the Avengers had buried Swordsman when he died. But the Katati being that was brought here on Earth years ago was able to take over the body of Swordsman, so that Mantis and Swordsman can have a baby to make Mantis the Celestial Madonna. Before the story continues on with this crazy idea of Mantis marrying the Katati form of Swordsman, you had the story shift back over to Vision and the Scarlet Witch arriving back to the Avengers home, where you have Angela Harkness lead the home of the Avengers as a way to say that the Scarlet Witch training is complete, but she'll be back here later on. Then you have Vision realize how much he loves the Scarlet Witch that he can't see himself without her, and so he asks her hand in marriage. Now this leads to the funny part of the story, where you have the rest of the Avengers regroup with Mantis and the others, where we see her say that she will marry the Katati version of Swordsman, but you had the Avengers bring in the 3 bodies of Kang, which leads to the question, which of these bodies is the real Kang? Except that is when Kang appears to kidnap Mantis, because he knew that she's supposed to become the next Celestial Madonna. And so he kidnaps Mantis and actually is able to get away. But you have Immortus tell the Avengers and us that Kang got away with an imposter who looked like Mantis. And so she is technically still with the Avengers. This leads to the ending of the book, where you have Mantis and Swordsman telling everyone that they are getting married. Then out of nowhere, you have Vision and the Scarlet Witch tell everyone that they are also getting married. But this leads into them having 2 weddings at once to make it easier on everyone, where after the wedding, you have Mantis and Swordsman leave the Earth so Mantis can become the Celestial Madonna, and Vision and the Scarlet Witch go on their honeymoon. And this is the end of Giant Size Avengers number 4 and also the end of today's video. And so guys, please leave me a like down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read? Well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'm out of here and I will see y'all next time. Later, y'all.